Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion.
Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing Was the Debut Better? I'm going to take two albums, the first two albums from a band, and decide was the first one better than the second one. So I'm either going to say yes, I'm going to say no, or I might even say just as good. Now, obviously, when it's a situation where it's just as good, I could, if I really had to, decide, okay, this is number one and this is number two. But if they're pretty close, then I'm just going to go just as good. And I've got quite a few bands and albums to go through, so I won't spend too long on each one. Now, obviously, I could go through so many bands, right? There's so many bands that have at least two albums. So I haven't gone through and used every single band that I've got in my collection that has at least two albums. I've just chosen a few. And there actually could be a part two for this because my pile is pretty big as it is, and I've still got a lot more I could do this with. So let's just see how we go with today. So yeah, I guess it's one of those situations where with your debut album, you've got your whole life potentially to write and record this album. But your second album, sometimes they have what they call the sophomore slump, and the second one not being as good. But sometimes it goes the other way, right? That first album might be quite good, might not be very good at all, but then the second album is amazing. So, and of course, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is the absolute fact, but in my opinion, whether the debut is, the best or better, then I'm not even saying they're the best in their discography, but I am saying better than their second album. So it beats their second album, or it's the same, or it's not as good. But I think most of these actually are pretty interesting ones. So let's get into it. First up, we've got Badlands and the self-titled debut album versus their second album, Voodoo Highway. Both amazing albums, of course, highlighted by the vocals of Ray Gillen and the guitar playing of Jake E. Lee, who of course has come from Ozzy Osbourne band. Now, both those albums are really good. I'm a big fan of Badlands, and of course they did a third album as well, which is also worth checking out. It was more demos for an unreleased third album, but still good stuff on there. This one, a little bit more bluesy, but there is still some good rockers on here. The Last Time reminds me very much of some of the better songs on this album, but this one's just stacked with just killer stuff like Dreams in the Dark, Winter's Call, High Wire. What a kick-ass way to kick off the album. And probably my favorite Badlands song, Devil Stomp, which is just killer. So yeah, the second album is good, but this was always going to be hard to beat. So is the debut better for Badlands? It is. It's the best of the two. All right, next we've got Bad English. So the debut Bad English versus the second album, Backlash. Now, this was a super group, I guess a little bit like Badlands, but this is definitely a super group because you got Neil Schon from Journey in here. You've got John Waite, of course, from the Babies, and he had a successful solo career. You got Jonathan Cain, really good hard rock. I'm actually going to go with the debut. I think this one's just a little bit heavier. It's got some more memorable songs. Best of What I Got, Forget Me Not. They're probably two of my favorites on here. It's not quite as heavy on this one. I think they got a little softer on this one. There's still some good songs, like Straight to Your Heart is really good. So This Is Eden, also excellent song. But I think, and John Waite's got such a fantastic vocals as well. And of course, can't forget about it. You got Neil Schon on guitar. So, just a great combination. I mean, Neil, of course, had been playing with another great vocalist in Steve Perry, and with Journey. So, it was, it's very it's similar to Journey, but maybe a little bit heavier. And I think it really fit. It was perfect time for them to form a group like this. And they had success as well with When I See You Smile. That was like a number one hit. So they had some success, but supposedly by the time the second album came out, they'd already broken up. So I think there was some disagreements about. I think John Waite wanted to go heavier. John Waite wanted to go a little bit softer with the sounds, and Neil wanted to get a bit heavier. So that's it. They broke up, and not long after this, you find Neil forming the band Hardline. So and then John Waite just went back to doing his solo stuff. But John Waite, amazing vocalist, really fantastic vocals. I enjoy his solo stuff. I would prefer though if he was doing more of the hard rock stuff. I enjoyed his baby stuff again. It's not that heavy, but so for me, my go-to sort of John Waite stuff is actually the Bad English stuff because there's some more sort of hard rock on that one. All right, next one is Black and Blue, their debut album versus Without Love, their second album. So far, the debut albums have won, but for this one, I'm actually going to go with the second one and say that no, the debut album is not better, that Without Love is better than the debut. Now, that might surprise some people because I know a lot of people like this one. In fact, a lot of people might say they're kind of not into Black and Blue so much, but they'd enjoy the first one. This is more of a straight up sort of early, mid 80s sort of heavy metal album, really. It's got Dieter Dierks on production, came out in 84. I guess that hair metal scene's just sort of starting up, it's just becoming popular, but they haven't got too commercial yet. They do actually end up sounding a lot more commercial on this one. They've got Bruce Fairbairn coming in to do production. It's a slicker sound, but of course, you got future Kiss man Tommy Thayer there on guitar, Jamie St. James on vocals. And you can even see with the look, they've toughened up. They've softened up the look a lot of the band, a lot more glam looking. But so I'm going to go with this one, but I will have to say, actually, it's records 3 and 4 that are my two favorite Black and Blue albums. So, yeah. All right, next up now, this one's a very popular band. Well, actually, they weren't really that popular at the time, but I think they've become a bit of a cult band, and sadly, the vocalist and guitarist of this band passed away quite recently, and I think a lot of people have really been making sure that they acknowledge and recognize that person's talent. And the person I'm talking about is John Sykes, and the band is Blue Murder. So I'm matching up Blue Murder, the self-titled, versus Blue Murder, Nothing But Trouble. So, and yes, I've got this one on vinyl. Not easy to get on vinyl. It will be coming out on Real Gone Music though very soon. Now, this is just awesome. Of course, Bob Rock. When I say awesome, I think I have talked about this album before, and there are some songs on it that I just think are okay. I think Ride is amazing. Black Hearted Woman. So that's the first and the last song on the album. Are two of my favorites. But it is actually really solid though all throughout, and I think it's one of those albums that's not instantaneous, and you actually, the more you play it, the more you discover and get into it and enjoy. So I think it's even now I'm probably liking it even more. So and the production's amazing. It sounds great. No one quite knows why they look like pirates, but other than that, it's brilliant. So and John initially wasn't even going to be the vocalist. I don't think they. In fact, talking about Ray Gillan, they had Ray Gillan come in and do some vocals there for a while, but it didn't work out. And there's a lot of comparisons, I think, between Blue Murder and Badlands. They both came out with great albums, but didn't really get the success that I think now people are sort of recognizing they should have got. So, is it though? Is the debut better than this one, which came out surprisingly in 1993? So, this is quite a few years after this one, but they're still on Geffen. The lineup's changed a little bit. There's still some of the lineup from the first one recording on this one, but then the actual members of the band, the touring band, and even in the picture, it's different people. One of them in particular, Kelly Killing from Baton Rouge, he comes in and actually even sings on one of the songs. But you got Mark Mendoza coming in as well. But there's some good songs on here. When I did my tribute to John Sykes, I did a short, and the song I played was Save My Love. That's actually a really nice song. It's not a heavy song, but it's a really nice song. Cry for Love it's a good rocker, that one. I really enjoy that one. We All Fall Down. They do a cover of Itchy Park, which, I just think a band like Blue Murder, they don't need to be covering songs. They got their own good song, enough of their own good songs. But yeah, there are some songs actually that kind of reminds me actually now I see this song. So Love Child, and there's also a song on here called Sex Child, which aren't actually that great. But if I had to choose between these two, it is close. But I'm going to say yes, the debut is better, and I'm going to say that my favorite of the two is the debut Blue Murder album. All right, next one we've got German band Bonfire. Don't Touch the Light. I'm not sure if that's actually on the cover, but I'm sure that is the title of it. Yes, you can see it on the spine. Don't Touch the Light versus Fireworks. So I've talked about this album before. I even had some fireworks going off in the background as I introed the album review that I did. I love this album, so let's just get it out the way. Is the debut better? No, not by a long way. This is a massive improvement. There's not a lot on here that I really my sort of go-to Bonfire songs, to be honest. But it's good to have in the collection, and it's not bad. It's your standard sort of, I guess, German hair metal. Melodic hard rock. Came out, I think, this one probably came out around '86. Yeah, but then here they've got Michael Wagner coming in to do production. It's '87. They've got a lot better. And from start to finish, it's good. I mean, there's a few songs on here that are a bit, maybe not so much, like American Nights. I'm not into so much, but Sleeping All Alone, never quite done it for me. But I love Ready for Reaction, Nevermind, Don't Get Me Wrong, Sweet Obsession, which is actually written by Jolin, or co-write with Jolin Turner. That's a killer song. That's my choice. The second album, the debut is not better. The second album is the best. Right, now this is an interesting one. I've gone with Bon Jovi here, with the self-titled Bon Jovi versus 7,800 Degrees Fahrenheit. So is the debut better? Yes, but it is very close. So I think this is still a good album. Now, a lot of people were a little bit dismissive or didn't like this one so much when it came out. I think after they had some success with this, Runaway, of course, being a hit, I think the thinking was the next one's going to be the one that really takes them to the next level, but it didn't. In fact, if anything, maybe the sales that they got and any success they got with this one was more from the work they had done, or the attention they'd got from their first album. But of course, they regroup in the third album, Slippery When Wet, is, forget about it. So, they're a massive band after that. And that's probably what they needed to do. Just sort of regroup, get in a songwriter, get in a new producer. So they got Desmond Child, they got Bruce Fairbairn, and Slippery When Wet happened. I haven't one of the stories I've heard, and there's a few different stories, but basically I'm not sure if it's either The Big Prize by Honeymoon Suite or the Black and Blue album I showed before, Without Love. John Bon Jovi he'd heard Bruce Fairbairn's production and thought, I think Bon Jovi needs to work with him on our next album. So that's what happened. But I do think there's some good songs on here, but there's also some songs that I'm not that much a fan of. I don't actually like Silent Night very much, particularly. Only Lonely, it's okay, but I mean, it's still good. It's very good. I really enjoy this, but like, for me, this is my number one album from 1984. So of course it's going to be hard to beat. So start to finish, it's a great one. So is the debut better? Yes, but it's close. All right, next one, Bonham, and I think this is just self-titled, versus Mad Hatter. So this is, of course, Jason Bonham, his band, and actually no, I think it's called The Disregarded Timekeeping. There we go, The Disregarded Timekeeping. It's on the newspaper headline there. This is really good. I mean, I don't love all of it, but Wait For You, Guilty, they're really good songs. This one, I felt that there weren't quite as many good songs on it. I do really like Change of Season. That's probably better than anything on even the first album, but the rest of the stuff just hasn't really clicked with me so much. I mean, they get put in the hair metal group of bands, but they had a bit of a different sound, I think, to some of the other bands that they were sort of associated with that were coming out at the time. I love the cover art here. I think this cover art is fantastic. Now, the guy who did it is a guy called Mark Ryden, I think his name is. Anyway, I'm thinking of doing a show on him because I've got lots of his album covers in my collection, and I love his work. So the album cover definitely beats. Although I tell you what, actually, I say it beats the debut album cover. This was pretty cool as well, right? Because it sort of like it starts here, but then you turn it over and it actually still carries on to the other side as well. It'd be better if it was gatefold. It's not a gatefold, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Of course, Daniel McMaster on vocals, rest in peace. And yeah, so is the debut better? Yes, I'm saying it is. All right, next one. Britney Fox, the debut versus Boys in Heat. Talking of album covers, I know some people don't particularly like this album cover, but some do. Trevor, I'm with you. I don't mind it. I think it's quite good. This is the guy who did this album cover. He did an album cover that's going to be coming up very soon. Dio, The Last in Line. So he's not a bad illustrator, really. He's done some good album covers. Anyway, this is not an album cover show, so I should start talking about the music. So, I mean, this one's classic, right? It's a bit of a classic of the hair metal genre. I mean, they've got totally, people would wonder, how did this hair metal name come along? Because of course it wasn't being used at the time. Well, probably retrospectively, they've looked back at album covers like this and gone, well, it's kind of like hair metal, right? Hair's a big part of it. I mean, it's just masses of hair. The fashion again, it's a little bit piratey, or I don't know quite what the thinking is there. But it actually was for a very brief period of time. This look, they changed their look, and a lot of bands were doing it. And then the second album, it's a little bit different. But the debut, and I'm saying this is debut. You could argue they had actually released an album prior to this, but it was independent, and I'm not going to count it. Okay, I'm not going to count the one. We're just going to match up the major label album debut versus their second major label album. Girl School, I did a video reaction to that. That's a classic. The video's a classic. The song's classic. Long Way to Love, fantastic. I really don't like there's some songs on here that's just like I've got to skip it or just put up with listening to it because it doesn't do a lot for me. I'm sorry, but Save the Week, fun in Texas, not really. No fun for me. Rock Revolution, fantastic. Don't Hide, killer. And then the last song, Hold On, is great stuff. So that's one of my favorite, album closers. Really love that song. I don't think there's quite as many killer songs on here, but there are some good songs. I think they've tried to go for sort of slightly more mature sound, more of that classic rock type sound rather than that sort of 80s hair metal type sound, perhaps. And there's some good stuff on here. Stevie is one of my favorites on here, and also Plenty of Love that opens up side two. In Motion's good, yeah. But I just find the good songs on here just so good that they beat the songs on the second one a little bit. So yes, the debut is better, but it's a little bit close, but not one of the hardest decisions I had to make. Now this one was even easier. Bullet Boys debut album versus their second album, Freak Show. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, so it's going to be difficult for them to top that. Unfortunately, I think their second album is quite disappointing. And with the second album, I do like Good Girl. I think that's a really good song. And, Hell Yeah, it's okay. That opens up side one. I mean, there's a couple of other songs that are fine, but I just think they just, for whatever reason, this one is just banger after banger from start to finish. I mean, to be honest with you, and it was released as a single, but it's a cover song. The song, where is it? Now I can't find it. For the Love of Money, yeah. I wasn't really into that all that much, but everything else. Side two is just like amazing. Kissing Kitty, F9. What else is on there? Crank Me Up, Hell on My Heels, Badlands. Oh yeah, this is one of those albums where the songs are listed, but they're not they're in random order. So that's why I was like struggling to find things. But I know this album so well. I can look at it and go, these are all the side two songs. Yeah, I know it really well. Hard as a Rock kicks it off. Smooth Up in You was one of the singles. Fantastic first single. That's really good. So yeah, F9 even, that's a good song. Oh, it's just this is awesome stuff. Now they get compared to Van Halen a little bit. Of course, they've got Ted Templeman on production. They're almost I don't know. They're more sort of a slightly more hair metal, I guess, Van Halen. But or whatever you want to call that sound that they had. It was just a slightly heavier, maybe Van Halen. But yeah, it's so good. So yes, the debut is better, yes. And the second album, a bit disappointing, to be honest with you. Especially, I guess it's one of those things where you love the album, first album so much, and then the second one's like, ah, okay. Anyway, this one's a lot harder to call. It's actually a real tough one for me, but I think I have made a decision. So yeah, Cinderella Night Songs versus Cinderella Long Cold Winter. What I will say is they actually changed their sound a little bit, obviously with Long Cold Winter, and get more bluesy, but they still don't lose that sort of hard rock, you know, I still don't lose that heaviness. There's some kick-ass songs on Long Cold Winter, like Bad Seamstress Blues, Falling Apart at the Seams. That's just even now, that song for me hasn't dated. It still sounds great today. Sometimes the songs you loved, back in the 80s sort of things, like, man, not so much so these days. But that to me, that's a timeless song. That's just so good. And Fire and Ice, I really like. Take Me Back's very good. If you don't like it, that's a good banger. That one, that's really good. I don't like the fact that side two starts off with Long Cold Winter, which is not a particularly exciting song. And when you're kicking off a side, I'm from the sort of, especially I'm a vinyl guy, right? You put the first song on each side, I think should, for hard rock or heavy metal band, should be a rocker really. But anyway, don't know what you got till it's gone. I always think the ballads are very good. So the ballad on the debut was Nobody's Fool, and I thought that was also excellent. Shake Me, I think that was their first single. That's a great song. Night Song's quite ominous kind of way to start the song. This album, when I first got it, I was thinking this is pretty heavy, right? And that wasn't what you'd expect when you look at the cover, right? They look like they look a bit like Poison, really, don't they? But they don't sound like Poison. Much heavier. Hell on Wheels. That's just a bang song. Somebody Save Me, really good. They got John Bon Jovi doing background vocals, I think, I think it might be Nothing for Nothing. I mean, you'd probably pick it up if you listen for it. He actually had a bit of a part to play with the band getting signed. But yeah, Back Home Again. I think for me, there's just slightly more killer songs on here, but this one's good. I don't mind Gypsy Road, but for first single, I didn't think that was anywhere near as good as some of the singles off the debut. So is the debut better? Yes, but the second album, there's nothing wrong with. All right, next one, Damn Yankees, supergroup versus this is I think self-titled versus Don't Tread. I really like this album. I've talked about how much I like this album on my show on my channel before. But this is also a really solid effort, really good, especially for coming out in I think this is 1992. It's not an easy time now for bands certainly with a sound like this. Now, Damn Yankees did have a hit with High Enough, so that really helped the album sales for this one. And I think this album also has a song just as good or close to as good. Where You Go Now. I think that could have been a hit, but it's 1992, and I think they're not getting the attention that they were more easily able to get when their debut came out. And this is great. I mean, Coming of Age is fantastic. Come Again. I was playing that the other day and I was thinking, what a great song. I was watching the music video actually, and what a great song. But yeah, you've got Ted Nugent on guitar. This is the best stuff he's done for me. I don't mind his solo stuff, but this is my go-to for when I hear some Ted Nugent, Damn Yankees, because obviously with Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw in there. Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, and I mean at first I thought it was okay. It's one of those ones where I played the more I played it, the more I actually know it's very good. And yeah, and I say I think this is very similar, very similar. I like how they didn't really change things too much. I think it's quite a similar album to the first one. And of course, not everyone, but a lot of people do know that there was a third album recorded, or at least they had made a lot of progress towards making a third album, but it never got released. So that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, is the debut better? I'm going to say yes. But again, a little bit like Cinderella, this is also very good. All right, next up we've got DAD. So Disneyland After Dark, which I really shouldn't include because it is not their debut album. Versus DAD Risking It All, which is also not their second album. So I'm not going to do it. Right, next one. I only just realized that. Just as I was pulling them up, I was like, hold on, that's not their debut album. Oh, well, so there we go. We'll just move on. Right, Dio. This is definitely a debut. So I've got, usually I had the debut on this end, but we'll do it on this end for now. So Dio, self-titled from 83 and Last in Line from 84. So, yes, the same artist that did Boys in Heat from Britney Fox did this. And yeah, great artwork and great album. But this one also great album. Now, this one is going to be very difficult. Now, I have done a Dio ranking before. So if you look at my Dio rankings, I have obviously decided out of these two which one I like the most. But for today's show, I'm going to say that they're the same because they're close enough. Yes, I do. If I had to choose one, I could, and I have. But I'm just going to say they're both the same. So was the debut better? No, they're about the same because it's just carrying on the amazing music from the first album, just carries on really nicely onto this one, which kind of makes sense. There's not a lot of time in between, just a year's difference, same lineup. And yeah, so I'm going to say that's a draw. All right, next one. Faster Pussycat came out around the same time as Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction versus Wake Me Up When It's Over, their second album. Now, this band, a little bit like LA Guns, I feel like, with their first album, it was raw, but it was cool. It had some good hard rock songs on it. And then with the second album, again, just like LA Guns, the production got a little bit better, the sound got a bit more polished. And for me, I do. There's some cool sleazy hair metal on here, but I think I like the slightly more polished sound on this one. So I'm going to go with no. The debut is not better, but it actually is close. And I will say I'm not the biggest Faster Pussycat fan. Like I like them, but not the biggest. So, but of the two, I'm going to go with the second album. So say no. The debut is not better. Wake Me Up When It's Over is my preference. All right. As I suspected, this is taking a while. So, we're not going to get through all the records that I had out, but I'll do a few more. Fifth Angel. So this is the debut, and this is the follow-up. Time Will Tell. Now, I think initially this is on Epic, and so is this. But I think initially this one might have been put out on Shrapnel. It was re-released on the Epic label. This is really quite. I mean, again, they like a lot of these bands now, and retrospectively, they get put in the hair metal category. But this is just 80s heavy metal, really. This was pretty heavy. They had Ted Pilot on vocals. I think that was who it was, and they also got so they've got Ken Murray on drums, and the guitar player is James Byrd, I think you say it, Byrd. Yeah, and he actually goes on to form this band called Atlantis, James Byrd's Atlantis, and that's also really good as well, worth checking out. But because he actually leaves after this album, and they have a different. Yeah, they have a different guitar player for the next album on this album, but the sound doesn't change very much. It's still pretty heavy, like Cathedral, which opens up this album. It's a real good heavy one. But yeah, I'm going to go with the debut, and I'm going to say the debut is better because Only the Strong Survive is just such a great song, and also the song they've got a song called Fifth Angel, which I think is excellent. But in the Fallout too, that's a really good fast-paced one to kick it off. So you could compare them a little bit to Dio, actually. I think they've got some Dio, but also some Dokken. It's good 80s metal, but not too heavy, still commercial. I mean, they're on a major label, of course, but probably just didn't really have the hit songs. They didn't really have the ballad that's going to get them airplay, and I think that might have made life a little bit difficult for them. But good musicians, good, and both really solid albums. I'm going to go with the debut, but both are definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard them. All right, on the other scale of things, this one's not so heavy, but they still get in the hard rock, hair metal type territory. and this one is Firehouse. So this is the debut album, just been reissued on vinyl via Real Grind Music, and then this is the second album called Hold Your Fire. This is a Korean press. I think they're both good albums. I would have probably liked both of them to be a little bit heavier, but All She Wrote on this album is, I think, a great song. On this album, I love the opening track, Reach for the Sky. I think that's really good. Rocky Tonight, also pretty good. They do have really generic song titles. Rocky Tonight. This was coming out in 1992, and they're putting out a song called Rocky Tonight, while this is when Nirvana's just starting out. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of dates it a little bit, or you could kind of understand in some ways why some people were sort of like Rocky Tonight in 1992. I don't know. Then again, Def Leppard we're putting out songs called Let's Get Rocked in 1992 as well, and doing fairly well. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm actually going to say that I prefer the second album. It's close, but I do prefer the second album. I think there's, like I say, those sort of even though I'm sort of not sure that calling a song Rocky Tonight's a great idea. I do like the song. And like I said, Reach for the Sky. This album was more successful. And of course, they had Love of a Lifetime on here. So their ballads, and even on here, I think, When I Look Into Your Eyes, I think that's kind of what kept the band going, is the success they had with their ballads. But I'm not really into their ballads too much. They even had a third major label album which came out in the mid '90s. Not many hair metal bands were still on a major label in the mid '90s, but they were, and they even, I think, had some success with another ballad on their third album. But I don't even have that album. But it's again, it's not that heavy. But the fourth album, which I don't have, but I have heard, they did actually go back to a slightly heavier sound on that one. But and I think that maybe they've done about 5 albums, I think. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to go with Hold Your Fire. So no, the debut is not better. All right, and yeah, maybe their second album might get a reissue on vinyl as well, because that's not an easy one to get. Okay, next one, Lita Ford. Lita Ford. Look at that for a change of image. And yes, it's a change of image and definitely a change of sound. So this is Out for Blood, and this is Dancing on the Edge. And yeah, like I say, she looks different, and there is a different sound as well. So this is more sort of punky, sort of heavy metal, 80s metal. It's coming out, 83, yeah. And she's got Neil Merriweather. I think he might have been, he was in some bands in the 70s, I'm sure, but he's on bass. He's probably helping with the songwriting. And then those two guys that are on the back cover here with Lita, I'm pretty sure they're gone for the second album. They've even got Hugh McDonald playing on this one, who goes on to be in Bon Jovi, of course. And there's another Bon Jovi link. It's produced by Lance Quinn. Gotta Let Go, Dancing on the Edge, great songs. Lady Killer, one of my favorite Lita Ford songs ever. I think I did a show with Peter Kerr on Rock Daydream Nation, and we were, before we even did when we did the show, we were going to do the show on our favorite Lita Ford album, and we both showed this one. So we just talked about this album. So yes, it's great. I mean, I think this is like I said, obviously it's her best album, but yeah, some really good songs. I think after this, of course, she had even more success, but yeah, for me, I think this one, she got a little bit more commercial, I think, on the next album. This one's heavy, but still melodic. And Lance Quinn, the producer, obviously worked with Bon Jovi, also Danger. I quite enjoyed his production style. I thought he put out some good albums with the artists that he worked with in the 80s. So yeah, so is the debut better? I mean, this is good. This is fun, but it just nothing really that catches really catchy on this, I think. I love the imagery. I love the front cover and everything like that. But yeah, musically, it's not as good as this one. Of course, she's been in already. This is her second career, right? She's already been in the Runaways, and she's still quite young when this comes out. So yeah, pretty impressive to sort of have another sort of go around, after the Runaways and then successful solo career. I guess just like Joan Jett as well. But yeah, I'm going to go with Dancing on the Edge. So no, the debut is not better. All right. This is taking a while, so I'm going to stop after this one. So this is going to be the last one. And, as I often have to do, I'll then say, well, there'll be a part two. And then, will there? I hope so. I hope so with this one because it was fun, but it just takes a while to get through all of these. And yeah, so let's finish with my good friend Ace Frehley and Frehley's comment. I'm going to count this as a debut. Yes, I know that he put out a solo album in '78, but I'm going to say this is more of a band thing. I'm going to say maybe even although this one says Ace Frehley, the second one then says Frehley's Comet. So it's interesting. It's sort of changed from being Ace Frehley's band to it's Ace Frehley as a solo artist to maybe it's a band called Frehley's Comet, and it's their second album because it's called Second Sighting. So I'm going to match these two up. And is the debut better? Well, the debut does have some good songs, but here's the thing. I'm one of those people who thinks that the Todd House songs are better than the Ace Frehley songs. And so I really like Calling to You. I like Something Moved. I think they're really good. I think the songs that Ace brings in, like Rock Soldiers, yeah, it's okay. Into the Night, that's a Russ Ballard song. I mean, you got to be honest, with the songs that Todd House brings in, and then he's got cover songs as well. I mean, Ace is not exactly bringing a lot to the table here, but and it's got the song Dolls, which I put on my shouldn't have been on the album episode. This one, again, for me, it's the songs that Todd House is bringing to the table, like Fallen Angel, I think that's really good. New Kind of Lover, fantastic. Time Ain't Running Out, which does have a bit of keyboard in there, but I think it's really tasty and just with just really commercial, but melodic and good, great hard rock. I love that song, Time Ain't Running Out. And the ballad, It's Over Now, I think is awesome. So is the debut better? No, I prefer this one. Quite easily, really, because I think there's some really good standout tracks. I've got to be honest with you. Ace has not given me anything at all here because the other song I quite like, Dancing with Danger, that's not even one of his songs. So that's a Street Heart song, I think, initially. So Street Heart put that one out. So when this came out, I was like, I don't know what the big deal about Ace Frehley is. I kind of respect it. Well, I can see that a little bit more now. Listening to sort of, when these came out, I hadn't even heard, all the Kiss albums from the 70s at that point. So I hadn't really heard what he'd done with Kiss, and I do think he contributed some great songs with Kiss. But I think on these two albums, his contributions were a bit patchy. Now, the third album, which I think has got a lot more of him in it, is actually pretty good. I quite like that one. And it's much more of a solo album, isn't it? But yeah, so is the debut better? No, I'm going to say my favorite is Second Sighting. All right, and I've still got a few here, but I'm going to stop here because I've been going for a while. Like I say, hopefully there'll be a part two, maybe with the amount of time that this has taken, to get through some of the bands I wanted to talk about. It might go on for a little while, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed and you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.